Hello, let's generate further information on Haslinden's past. Haslinden railway station handled a large amount of traffic. It was particularly busy at holiday times, when hundreds of people travelled on excursion trains. Abraham Alpha was an early promoter of day trips. The outings were cheap, but one had to be up early to catch the train. The photograph shows Sunday school children at the station in 1914. The public hall, which was made into a hospital, which was staffed by members of the local ambulance corps. A sad day when Kitchener's death in 1916 was marked by a memorial service held on June the 13th at Trinity Baptist Chapel. We see the arrival of the Mayor, Councillor Russell. In World War II, Haslinden contributed more national savings per head of population than almost any other industrial town. Savings groups were formed in mills, factories, offices and streets, and special events were held to boost savings even more. War Weapons Week 1941 raised $313,802. Warship Week 1942 $255,298. Wings for Victory Week 1943 $151,170, and Salute the Soldier Week 1944 $156,340. The Haslinden Mills, in particularly Flash Mill, made an outstanding contribution to war savings. In June 1944, the mill became the first to win a Challenge Cup given by Lord Derby for a competition embracing all the textile districts, and Lord Derby visited the mill to make the presentation. Lord Derby visited Flash Mills. George Berry provided rides on his horse. Salvage drives were not unheard of throughout the war. The Women's Voluntary Service appointed salvage stewards who were helped by children. Each child had a weekly waste paper round. When we are married. The formation of the Haslinden Hearts Club in May 1944 owed much to the spirit of the comradeship engendered by the war. There were varied programs, concerts, recitals by famous musicians, visits by drama and ballet companies, films, lectures, and numerous events by members themselves. Haslinden gives a startling picture of what can be done. In the first season, 15,400 people attended the various public activities. The programme is amazingly full. The BBC featured the club in a special broadcast, electing a letter from a listener who wrote, "I never heard such a story of enterprise and success. Haslinden to me was always a grim, bleak, tough-looking town. Like a man dressed in corduroy cap and clogs, your story has given me a different impression of people with talent and grit." The club choir taking part in a broadcast. From a house, the contents were taken outside when the Hargreave Street mill was badly damaged by fire in February 1949. A stranded bus outside Rising Bridge Post Office. Flood water sweeping down Northfield Road. The water was building up behind the Manchester Road embankment, completely covering the lower rooms of several houses. The water ran under the house, causing the whole building to collapse. The occupants were on holiday. The former cotton mill of James Lambert at Cars was on fire on August the 5th, 1978. The fire from the mill was catching to the house, so the furniture had to be removed. This is Indus Street, showing supports for outdoor water tanks, which were stone slabs bolted together. The tanks were for collecting rain, which ran off the roofs. The centre of Haslingden. The whole vicarage, Higher Dearden Gate, after being used for some years as a laundry. It became the Empire Music Hall and Silent Picture House. Changes were to take place in the 1930s. Clearance schemes. They removed several buildings of character, notably the White Horse Inn, as you see above. St. James's Church in 1878, then very much a part of the top of the town. If you look closely, you will see Communion Street and Pocket Street to the right. We are looking onto Church Street. 1909, May Day, when the publicans of the street organised the horse parade. Stocks's House, Temperance Hotel in 1910. A corner of Marketplace in 1903. Cattle, or as numerous as pedestrians, outside the ironmonger's shop. The shop was demolished towards the end of 1926 to improve the flow of traffic. Market Street was a scene of religious and political meetings. The big lamp providing a point around which crowds could gather and from which speakers could address their listeners. On walking days, the churches held services in the square. Haslingden's cattle market was held in Marketplace and the adjoining streets until 1910. Then local farmers surrendered their ancient rights and built the auction mart at Bengate. Market day at the turn of the century, as well as the stalls, which continued to the bottom of the Higher Dearden Gate. There were street sales of cattle and horses in Market Square. Marketplace in the early days of the century. In the centre of the square was the big lamp, erected by public subscription in 1841 and supplied with free gas by the Haslingden Union Gas Company. We have another picture of the old vicarage in Higher Dearden Gate. This photograph was taken in 1912 when the building was being used as a laundry and shortly before its conversion to the Empire Variety and Silent Picture Hall. In 1936 the front was demolished. The children on the right have a truck made from a box labelled Q Sugar. Dearden Gate in Haslingden. old farm buildings at the bottom of Warner Street, a site now occupied by Accordingly's showroom. Much of the farmland remained in use until 1909, when the town council bought the 14-acre Warner estate, mainly to provide land for the Central Council School. The funeral of Father Notre Dame was in 1910. Here we see a procession moving down Warner Street on its way to the cemetery. Farmland until 1909. By the end of the 19th century, there was a place of worship in Haslingden for every 700 inhabitants. In a town with a few buildings of an architectural interest, the Victorian chapel stood out, but the life of several was comparatively short. Salem Chapel was built in Regent Street in 1882 by the United Methodist Free Church. It was demolished in 1967. Trinity Baptist Church in Blackburn Road existed from 1873 until 1969. The first Methodist chapel in Haslingden, it was built in Bury Road in 1786 and used for 10 years. John Wesley preached there in 1788. The building became a private house and was pulled down in 1897. The grammar school was built on the site. This picture was taken on September the 5th, 1932, after a car had collided with a lightning standard near the centre. The posters to the gable end are advertising films at the Empire and Palace cinemas, and also the shop window of Sandler Green. It is just possible to make out the arch which was displayed there for many years. The pictures you see were taken before World War I.